In today's episode, we are digging into some of the big reasons why it seems like your H. pylori treatment isn't working. It can be so frustrating going through treatment protocols and feeling like you are making no progress. So if that's you, or if you want that to not be you, this episode will break down everything you need to know to be able to treat your H. pylori infection with confidence so that it can be your last. So stay tuned. Hey there, I'm Jessica Washington, a former gut health patient turned functional nutrition practitioner, and I am on a mission to help you finally say goodbye to stubborn stomach symptoms and reclaim your life with confidence. On the Getting Well Again podcast, we dive deep into the root causes of gut issues, sharing real strategies that actually work to help you feel like yourself again. Healing your stomach is about so much more than just protocols. So get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let's dive into this journey to lasting gut health together. Well, hello again. I'm so excited to dive into this topic. It's one that is critical to understand when you're dealing with stomach symptoms or H. pylori, but it's one that has a lot of misinformation out there. So we are going to get into all the details and hopefully set the record straight. So today we are talking about H. pylori, and more specifically why it is so difficult to eradicate and why it may seem like your treatment protocol is not working. And so maybe if you're listening to this, you have been diagnosed with H. pylori in the past, and maybe you've treated it once or a handful of times, or maybe you're here because you have chronic stomach symptoms like reflux, heartburn, or stomach pain, and you're trying to figure out what could be causing those issues. So no matter where you fall on the H. pylori diagnosis and treatment spectrum, this episode will help to clear up any confusion or misinformation about H. pylori that you may have heard. And it will help you get a better understanding of maybe why your treatment protocols you've tried in the past haven't been effective. So let's get into it, shall we? All right, so first, let's start at the very beginning. What exactly is H. pylori? So H. pylori is a spiral-shaped bacteria that inhabits mainly your mouth, your stomach, and the first part of your small intestine. And so H. pylori can be spread through a variety of different ways. Some of the common ones are through direct contact with contaminated saliva or vomit or stool, or by consuming contaminated food or water, or through transmission from family members, usually through sharing utensils, drinks, or just swapping saliva. And so this is an important thing to know. A lot of people think that once they successfully eradicate H. pylori, that it's just gone forever and they can never get it again. And that is definitely not true. H. pylori is just like any other bacteria. You likely come in contact with it frequently just by living your normal life, and it's just up to your body to be able to defend itself and fight off the bacteria before it takes hold. And so there's this stat that I always tell people that about 50% of the world's population has H. pylori. And so, of course, not 50% of the world's population is dealing with chronic stomach symptoms and ulcers and on PPIs and things like that. And so we have to then think about, well, why is only a small portion of that 50% having symptoms and things from H. pylori. And so that is something we're going to get into a little bit later. But H. pylori is just like any other bacteria out there. It's just something that we have to build up our body's defenses so that your body can withstand coming in contact with, and it won't take hold and take root in your body and cause symptoms. And also, along with that, don't worry that just coming in contact with H. pylori means that you will get the infection again. No, many times that bacteria just passes through our GI tract, and our stomach acid or our gut immune system is able to take care of them before they can take up residence. And so many times our bodies can fight these infections on their own. You have to work on strengthening your body's defenses to enable it to be able to take care of that H. pylori or really any other bacteria that you come in contact with so it doesn't impact you and cause symptoms. However, if you do have low stomach acid, a weakened gut immune system, or you're worn down and stressed, your body can have a more difficult time fighting off infections, and we are then more susceptible to that H. pylori taking hold. But, all right, so once you do have an H. pylori infection take up residence in your GI tract, there are a few different ways that this infection can cause symptoms. And I think this is a very important thing to be aware of, because understanding the reason why H. pylori causes symptoms the way that it does enables you to better heal your stomach and counteract those symptoms once you have gotten rid of the infection. And so the first way that H. pylori causes symptoms is that H. pylori produces an enzyme called urease. And so this enzyme is inherently damaging to human cells, and more importantly for our conversation, the presence of this enzyme decreases the acidic environment in your stomach. So our stomach is naturally a very acidic place, like up there with battery acid, and it's important for our stomach to have this strong acidic environment for a few reasons. One, because a strongly acidic stomach chemically digests your food, and that highly acidic stomach acid works to break down the food that you chew into a liquid, right? So after you chew things, that they're still in small chunks, and then once the food reaches your small intestines, it needs to be a liquid so that your intestines are able to break down all of that food. But your small intestine is where all of the calorie and nutrient absorption takes place. And if your food is not in that liquid state, your small intestine is going to have a much more difficult time absorbing what your body needs from the food that you eat. And then second, your acidic stomach also works as your gut's first line of defense against ingested pathogens. So bacteria and viruses, H. pylori, that enter our bodies through our GI tract cannot survive in this harshly acidic stomach. So it's critical that we have enough stomach acid and that it is at optimal acidity, or else you are more susceptible to other gut infections taking hold, whether that's another reinfection of H. pylori or just some other pathogen that's going to cause an imbalance in your microbiome. And so those are the two big impacts of having a stomach environment that is not at optimal levels. You're not going to be able to digest your food well, and you're opening the door for other infections to take hold. Two things that we don't really want. And so now, the reason that H. pylori produces this enzyme urease to lower our stomach's acidity is so that the bacteria can survive in a less harsh environment, which makes sense, right? The H. pylori wants to live in your stomach. It wants to be nice and cozy in there, but not much can survive stomach acid. So to take up permanent residence in there, the H. pylori needs to produce that enzyme urease to decrease that acidity, which is great for the H. pylori, not so great for us. The symptoms that often come with a lowering of your stomach acid are things like reflux, heartburn, loss of appetite, nausea, feeling tired after eating, bloating and gas, just right because you aren't digesting your food well. And so those are all side effects or impacts of having an H. pylori infection. And then the second way that this H. pylori infection works to cause symptoms is by damaging your stomach lining. So if you haven't realized by now, H. pylori is a pretty nasty bacteria. It inhabits your stomach by literally burrowing itself into the stomach's mucus layer, the stomach lining, and it attaches itself in there and just gets all nice and cozy. And all of this burrowing and attaching results in damage to your stomach lining, inflammation, which we then get diagnosed as gastritis, and then sometimes even ulcer formation. And if you think about maybe if you've ever had an open sore on your finger, on your hand, or a canker or a cold sore in your mouth, that's essentially what goes on in your stomach as a result of this H. pylori infection. Your stomach tissue is just very red and inflamed and sore. And as you can imagine, that's going to cause a lot of symptoms like burning, stomach pain, nausea, and loss of appetite. So just because H. pylori exists in your stomach, it's going to then be causing all of those symptoms. And then the third way that H. pylori causes symptoms is that it also does damage to your stomach's proton pumps, which are responsible for producing stomach acid. So when those proton pumps are damaged and not working properly, you're not going to have the same amount of stomach acid being produced as you would if they were not damaged and working at full capacity. And this results, again, in less stomach acid production in a similar situation that we just talked about with the production of urease lowering stomach acidity. So you're just not going to be able to chemically digest your food fully, and you're going to have a weaker first line of defense against ingested pathogens. And this situation, again, can cause things like reflux, heartburn, and just symptoms of not digesting your food well, like bloating and gas. And so that is our quick overview of the 3 ways that H. pylori works in your stomach to produce symptoms. So the urease production, the stomach damage from the burrowing, and the proton pump damage are the primary reasons why you get symptoms from an H. pylori infection. And these symptoms are present while you have the infection, and these are all primary reasons why you may still be having symptoms even after treating and successfully eradicating the H. pylori. Because all of that damage, that mess that the H. pylori has caused in your stomach, it's just set up shop and wreaked havoc in there. You just need to spend some time undoing the damage from that infection and supporting your stomach in its healing. And this need for stomach healing is so common. People always ask me in my DMs, like, why am I still having symptoms after H. pylori treatment? I feel worse now. That I've created an entire free email series that gives you some actionable steps that you can take right now to start kickstarting your stomach healing and hopefully start seeing some symptom improvement. And so if you want to get that free email series, just head to theguthealingninja.com/kickstart and you can sign up, and I will also put that link in the show notes for this episode too. And okay, so now that we have our H. pylori basics covered, we know what it is, we know how it causes symptoms, let's dive into why in the world this bacteria is such a stinker when it comes to getting rid of it. And so first, just by being in your stomach, the H. pylori really takes a toll on your body. Like we just looked at, it lowers your body's defenses, degrades your stress resilience, and just stresses your body out. And that makes sense, right? The bacteria is burrowing into your stomach lining, lowering your stomach acid, just causing a lot of mess in your stomach that shouldn't be there. And so that is a big reason right there why H. pylori is so difficult to get rid of, because it is creating a stress state in your body and making it more difficult for your body to function normally. Like if you think about when you get a cold, you are unfortunately more susceptible to getting another cold and another cold on top of that first one. And that's because your body's defenses are lowered and your body is preoccupied and stressed out trying to attack that first cold virus. And it's the same thing with H. pylori. That first infection just puts your body into a stress state, so it makes it that much harder for your body to successfully fight it off, even with the best treatment protocol in place. And this is why it is so critical that we address the stomach healing and resilience building piece to the H. pylori eradication puzzle. Treatment is only part of the battle, and if treatment is all that you're doing, you may have a difficult time eradicating the infection and seeing full symptom resolution. So, broadening your scope outside of just H. pylori treatment to include more holistic, healing-focused work could be a big missing piece that's keeping you from being able to fully eradicate your infection. And then next, H. pylori resides in places outside of your stomach, and that's why it can be so difficult to eradicate and maybe seems like your treatment protocol is not working. So H. pylori can also inhabit your mouth and sometimes even your gallbladder. And so if your treatment protocol is only focused on the stomach and the intestines, you are missing out on attacking those other potential hidden H. pylori, which could be a big reason why you're not able to get rid of it. And this is why whenever I work with clients, we are not just doing an antimicrobial protocol. We are focusing on oral health. We are making sure we are doing liver and gallbladder support so that we are covering all of our bases and flushing out all the H. pylori that we can, so that that treatment protocol we are doing can be as effective as possible. So if you are just relying on a course of antibiotics or some herbal antimicrobials to fully address things, you may be missing some hidden H. pylori. And then lastly, along the same lines as hiding in different locations in your body, H. pylori also has ways to make itself more difficult to kill and more resistant to treatment. So H. pylori can actually shift into what is called a coccoid form that helps it evade antibiotic or antimicrobial attack. And on top of that, H. pylori can form tough outer shells called biofilms that can prevent antibiotics or antimicrobials from doing their job appropriately. Like the film is kind of like a shield that it prevents the actual H. pylori and its DNA from getting damaged by the treatment protocol. And another one, H. pylori can hide inside yeast, so things like candida that maybe are already residing in your gut. Maybe they're commensal, they're just happy being in there. But the H. pylori takes advantage of that, sneaks in, hides inside that yeast, and makes it difficult for antibiotics or antimicrobials to reach it. So it's a sneaky little bugger, and H. pylori's ability to evade antibiotics and antimicrobials is one of the main reasons why it might seem like your treatment protocol just is not working. Maybe you're doing seemingly all the right things, and it's just not moving the needle. You keep having symptoms, you keep seeing H. pylori pop up on retesting. And if you aren't including different herbs and different supplements in your treatment protocol to address those sneaky ways that H. pylori can evade attack, that could be one of the big reasons why you're having trouble eradicating it. So whenever I write H. pylori treatment protocols for clients, I use a lot of different supplements. It's never just mastic gum, or it's never just Matula tea, which maybe you've tried in the past and it hasn't worked. But we have to attack H. pylori from a variety of different angles so that we make sure we're addressing all the sneaky ways that it likes to avoid attack. So that's why my protocols, maybe if you've seen them, they're a little lengthy, but they work, and it's because they're addressing H. pylori in all the different forms and all the different ways that it likes to be sneaky and hide from you. So, in summary, H. pylori causes symptoms by damaging your stomach lining and lowering your stomach acid. The impacts of that not only result in symptoms that could make your life miserable, but these impacts trickle down to affect your body's resilience and ability to heal and fight off this H. pylori infection itself, which is one of the reasons why it's difficult to eradicate. Other things that make H. pylori difficult to eradicate are that your treatment approach isn't accounting for the fact that the bacteria can reside outside of your stomach and small intestine and may be missed by antibiotics if you're not taking a holistic approach to healing. And then finally, H. pylori can also hide, build strong biofilms, and be really sneaky. So if your treatment protocol isn't super comprehensive, you could be missing out on killing those hidden H. pylori, making it seem like things are just not working. So I hope this discussion was helpful in clearing up some H. pylori misconceptions, clearing the air around why it seems like it takes so many rounds of treatment to get rid of H. pylori. I've had clients get rid of H. pylori after just one round of herbal treatment. So if you're doing it correctly, if you're taking a comprehensive approach to not only treatment, but just holistically restoring your body, boosting your stress resilience, managing stressors, healing your stomach, treatment does not have to be this long, drawn-out thing. And again, if you're interested in that free stomach healing kickstart series, make sure you head to theguthealingninja.com/kickstart or the link in the show notes. And happy H. pylori healing, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Getting Well Again podcast. If you found today's conversation helpful, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Your feedback really helps others who need this information find the show and start their own healing journey. And if you know someone who'd benefit, please feel free to share this episode with them too. See you next time.